The Fantastic Four movies of the mid-2000s, despite their shortcomings, had a creative team with all the right pieces in place to make a truly great film. But despite 2 attempts that featured the team's most notable supporting characters, never quite came together. Well, what if I told you there were actually plans in place for a 3rd movie that, by all accounts, might have been that great film? That was seemingly set to focus on the dynamics of the family as they fought a villain that hit much closer to home than Galactus or Doctor Doom, and potentially welcomed a new member to their family. Well, that's the movie we'll be discussing today as we break down the unmade sequel, Fantastic Four 3. The year was 2005. After a winding road to the big screen, Fantastic Four finally released that July. In the aftermath of the film's release, a strong opening weekend and solid box office haul made it clear Marvel's first family was about to become a film franchise. And according to Human Torch actor Chris Evans, it seemed like the powers that be at 20th Century Fox had a rough plan of where sequels could go. After the first one was released, we got wind of potential titles and plots almost immediately. One of those potential plots in question was made manifest with the release of Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer in June of 2007. Though, in the months leading up to the film's release, we would start to get our first hints of what a 3rd Fantastic Four movie may look like. In an April interview with Meavy, Michael Chiklis, who played the Thing, was asked if his character's relationship with Alicia Masters would continue in the upcoming 2nd film, and his answer began to paint a picture of the series' future. Yes, and it's my understanding that that's going to develop a lot more in the 3rd installment. There is some development in the 2nd film, but apparently it goes to a different place in the 3rd one, which they're looking at very closely depending on how well this one does. In a June 2000 interview with Black Film to promote the release of Rise of the Silver Surfer, series director Tim Story mentioned the comic book villain Puppet Master, who also happens to be the stepfather of Alicia Masters. When pressed if Puppet Master could show up in the series, Story revealed, "I've always wanted to do something with the Puppet Master, mainly because of the story with Ben Grimm and Alicia. I'd be really surprised if the Puppet Master wasn't part of a 3 if there was a 3. Meanwhile, in another June interview with F4 Movies to promote Rise of the Silver Surfer, one of the film's writers, Don Payne, was asked if there were any elements written into the script that could have led into a potential 3rd movie. Payne stated that there were. Some of it was even shot, but ultimately cut for pacing reasons. And when pressed on what those elements were, he revealed that in the final wedding scene, Alicia mentions wanting to introduce Ben to her stepfather, but warning him that her stepfather can be a little difficult sometimes. So that was a wink to the fans. Interestingly enough, the first film also had a scene where Alicia referenced her stepfather that was cut before ultimately being added back into the film's 2007 extended edition. So it's clear that Story really had Puppet Master in mind this whole time. Shortly after the release of Rise of the Silver Surfer, Chris Evans gave an interview with MTV, very candidly addressing the perceived shortcomings of both Fantastic Four films. During this interview, he discussed his hope for the series and for its titular characters to grow, mature, and dip into a bit more of a serious tone, which he felt they did a bit with Rise of the Silver Surfer, but hoped to push it just a little further with a potential 3rd film. Still keeping the family film tone, but balanced out by some of those more serious elements. Evans felt that, by round 3, we really will be able to knock something out of the park, before suggesting that in movie 3, the team should fight Puppet Master, noting Ben and Alicia's connections to him, and expressing how excited he was to see Michael Chiklis get to do more if the threequel went that route. From these quotes, it seems fairly clear. The 3rd Fantastic Four movie likely would have focused on the Thing's relationship with Alicia, set against the backdrop of the team having to fight the Puppet Master. Though it's worth noting that on July 10th of 2007, nearly a month after the film's release, The Hollywood Reporter noted that 20th Century Fox was still considering a 3rd Fantastic Four movie, but there was no script in active development. With this information in mind, it seems that the Puppet Master story was the intended direction of where the sequel would go, and very likely was one of the potential sequel plots that the cast was told about years before. In addition to that storyline, there were a few more ideas mentioned for a third movie during this era. Don Payne also revealed in his interview that if he had a chance to write a third film, he personally had a lot of love for the Inhumans, Skrulls, Puppet Master, Annihilus, and the Negative Zone. In a May 2007 Rise of the Silver Surfer promotional interview, Tim Story made reference to his love of the source material and how lucky he felt to be the person adapting it, stating, "I've got to tell you, to get the Fantastic Four and turn it into a franchise, the first thing I thought was, will I get the Silver Surfer? Or someone like Black Panther who was introduced in their book. Get Jimon Hansu and go do it? But there are so many other great villains and stories. I feel like I hit the jackpot." It seems unlikely that either of those comments were explicit teases of future films, but more so disconnected ideas that Payne and Story were interested in exploring. However, there was one other possible story idea that was frequently proposed at the time: the introduction of Reed and Sue's ultra-powerful, reality-warping son, Franklin Richards. In an August 2007 interview with MTV, Sue Storm actress Jessica Alba, when asked what she would want to see in the next film, stated, "I'd like to see little Franklin running around." In September, she'd reiterate her hopes to see Franklin, and in January of 2008, in an interview with IESB, when asked explicitly if she'd like to see Sue become a mother in the third film, she'd state, "Little Franklin? Yeah, I think that would be hilarious. He's so powerful. I think that would be a really interesting dynamic, a mother-child dynamic. She's still a superhero, but she's super protective, and he's wild, he can do anything, and has no sense of what's appropriate. That would be really fun." Whether this was Alba stating her personal desire, or Franklin Richards was another one of the potential sequel plots she was told about, is unclear. Though the fact that she brought up the idea on multiple occasions and had seemingly given it a lot of thought, similar to the way that Chiklis and Evans talked about Puppet Master, makes the latter option seem likely. In that same interview, Alba was asked how long until we get Fantastic Four 3, to which she replied, "I have no idea. I know the writer's strike and the impending actor strike has kind of put a wrench in everything production-wise. That film takes a lot of prep, a good 6 months of prep and about 6 months to shoot. With the strike, I think maybe it's put on hold." In February, MTV sat down with Michael Chiklis, and he was told about Alba's Franklin Richards comments. He seemed surprised, but went on to note that a third Fantastic Four was on the back burner. That next month, MTV sat down again with Chris Evans, who had a more outwardly pessimistic outlook on the future of the series. "I'm pretty sure we won't do another one. I'm assuming that one is a closed book. After the first one was released, we got wind of potential titles and plots almost immediately. And I've heard nothing from anyone at Fox. We had all planned on doing another one, but if there were going to be a third, I think a week after the second one was released, we would have heard." Evans noted that, despite being happy to walk away from the role, he would definitely be open to making a cameo in another character's movie at some point in the future. Though any talk of a direct sequel to Rise of the Silver Surfer would be put to rest in late August of 2009, when Variety reported that Fox was rebooting the series. While initially unclear if this was a hard reboot or just a creative overhaul, years later we would get our answer when Fanforstic released in theaters. Overall, I think it's a real shame that the third film never happened, because those movies had a wonderful cast with chemistry, which was, dare I say, fantastic. Add on top of that the Puppet Master plotline and the potential introduction of Franklin Richards, I think you would have gotten to the point that Chris Evans was talking about. Something slightly more mature that they really could have knocked out of the park. But that's the story of Fantastic Four 3, and the end of yet another episode of Canned Goods. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, be good to each other, and stay Hemmas.